Hey everyone, I'm Joe Ferzoco.
And I'm Chris Ferzoco. And Joe, in today's video, we're actually going to be covering the second half of 2023 market statistics versus the first half of 2023.
Statistics here. Very, very good. Hey, and if this is your first time to the channel and you like what you see, please subscribe below, tap that bell for instant notifications, and please hit that like button and you'll be the first to get the most up-to-date market and happenings down here at the Jersey Shore. And I mean that Jersey Shore, not that Jersey Shore. And of course, it's Brigantine to Cape May and all towns in between. Brigantine, Ventnor, Margate, Longport, Ocean City, Summers Point, Sea Isle, Strathmere, Stone Harbor, Avalon, North Wildwood, Wildwood Crest, West Wildwood, Diamond Beach, Lower Township, Cape May, North Cape May Villas, Delhaven, Cape May Courthouse, and Upper Township. So, and if there's one in between that we missed, sorry folks, didn't have the map out there. So, Chris, why don't you, it wasn't in my office. Why don't you get us started there? I think you're going to start in Ocean City here for the second half of 2023.
That's right, Joe. And what we're going to cover today here is obviously we're going to cover the sale price, right? So, what is the overall sales value of the homes that we're going to be covering, or properties that we're going to be covering? And we're going to look at the number of properties that came up for sale. We're going to look at the number of properties that closed. And we're also going to look at the overall sale price versus list price as well.
Okay.
And what we're going to be looking at today is, again, we're going to make sure that we're covering all property, everything that was for sale, whether it be a vacant lot, whether it be a hotel, whether it be a beachfront, a condominium, efficiency. Doesn't matter if it was listed and sold. That's what we're talking about today, folks, in our market statistics. So in Ocean City, what do we have happen there? In the second half, we actually had a slight decrease, Joe, of only 4% in the overall value. We actually went from 1.23 down to 1.18, being very specific. So again, just a real slight decrease there, nothing crazy, one half versus the other.
Okay.
When you look at the number of properties that actually came on the market, they're actually, again, only a slight decrease. We went from 692 to 643. Okay, that's what, a 7% drop, right?
Yeah.
So nothing, again, not a big number, not a huge change, and a lot of that can be considered, you're taking in the time of year as well.
Yeah.
You look at the number of properties that sold, again, not really crazy. I mean, I say 12%, 12% is a big number. 359 down to 315 properties that actually closed in the second half of the year. So again, still seeing those properties selling rather consistently. When you look at the overall sale price versus list price, we actually had 96%. A little bit higher than that. So that was actually up 1% in the second half versus the first half. So you actually saw some changes, Joe, in Ocean City, but nothing alarming. Most of it was real, very slight, anywhere between 4, 7, 12%, but they weren't big overall real numbers.
Sure.
The percentages sometimes sound bigger than the real numbers actually are.
Yep.
So let's look at Sea Isle. How did that compare? So you look at the second half of Sea Isle City, they actually had an 8% jump in price. So that actually went from 1.37 up to 1.49. So nice increase there. As for the number of properties that came on the market, you actually had a 21% drop, went from 135 down to 106. Okay. And then when you look at the number of properties that actually sold, you went from 98 down to 55. That's 44%. Those numbers are a little bit bigger when you start talking about like real numbers. 98 down to 55.
Yeah.
That's almost a 50% drop. That's a big difference when you start looking at the number of properties that you're looking for closings, and 21% drop in the number of listings.
Yeah.
That's a big number. We need those listings coming on the market in order to get those sales up, which was also down 44%.
Yeah.
They tie right together, folks.
Sure thing.
And as for the actual sales price to list price, actually we had a nice jump there too. We actually had about a 1.5% jump. We went up to 96, almost 97% sale price to list price there in the second half.
Very good. The one thing, Chris, that I did notice as we move down the Parkway, down in towards the Wildwoods is, when we're looking at the number of properties that are coming on the market, the number of properties that are selling, and while in almost every town that we're covering, the number of properties that were listed in the second half of 2023 was less than the number of properties in the first. When we start looking at this inventory and say, what's going on with inventory, we can also say that the number of properties that sold was less than the amount of properties that came on the market. So, as long as, it's baby steps. As long as you got more properties that are coming on than they're selling, at some point in time, there'll be a big enough gap there for an inventory. I just kind of thought that was a little bit interesting as well. Let's jump into North Wildwood, second half of 2023. So your average sale price was up about 8%, $557,000 was your average list price in North Wildwood for the second half of the year. Number of properties that came on the market, About a 4% drop there. We had 147 properties come on the market, 153 in the first half of the year, so not a real big difference there, folks. And as far as the number of properties that sold, we had 101 sell in the second half of 2023 in North Wildwood compared to 111 the first half of the year. So again, not a real big difference there. We did run about 100% list price to sale price in the second half of 2023. Average sale price being list price being $559,000. Your average sale price being $557,000. Yep. And in the first half of the year, it was 97%, and you started about $40,000 lower, $529,000 and $515,000. So that was good news there for North Wildwood. We move into Wildwood itself. Average sale price was up 12% to $528,000 in the second half of the year. Number of properties that came on the market, slight little difference, had 172 in the second half of the year compared to 187. Number of properties that closed, same as the first half, 126 in each of the first 6 and last 6 months of the year. List price to sale price in Wildwood, again, same as the first half of the year. They pretty much ran identical, right around 98.5%, 99% list price to sale price in Wildwood. We moved down into the Crest. Average sale price the second half of the year did drop, $644,000, so it was about an 8% drop in the second half of 2023, $644,000. Number of properties that came on the market also down from the first half of the year. We had 119 come on the market as opposed to 125. And then we move into the number of properties that sold. Pretty identical there too. We had 17 closed as opposed to 103 closed as opposed to 90. So that was the one place where we did have more closed than in the first half of the year. That was about a 13% increase than the first half of the year. List price to sale price, again, run pretty identical, 96, 97% as far as your average list price to sale price. We move in the Diamond Beach, Sea Point Village area. Again, we had about a 5% increase in the second half of the year. Not a lot going on, but there was $781,000 was your average sale price, opposed to $741,000 in the first half of the year. We had 17 properties come on the market in all of the second half of 2023, as opposed to 24 in the first half of the year. 17 closed and 23 closed in the first half. So that was about a 26% drop in the number of properties that closed in the second half of the year as well. List price to sale price, pretty identical, 98%. And as I said, it was about a 4% difference. So you started at 796 in the second half of the year as opposed to 751 in the second. Final stop in the southern half here of the state in Cape May. Your average sale price was down the second half of the year, about 17% difference. 1.3 million in the second half of 2023 in Cape May, as opposed to your average sale price 1.577 in the beginning of 2023. So it was about a 17% drop in your sale price. Number of properties came on the market, pretty similar. 48 came on the market in the second half of the year, 58 in the first. 38 properties sold in the second half of the year as opposed to 51. Yep. So it was about a 25% difference there. List price to sale price, identical, 96%. List price to sale price, the only difference being you started at about $300,000 more in the first half of the year at 1.6 as opposed to 1.3 in the second half of the year.
Okay, good numbers.
Yeah.
There you go. A lot of increases there you just mentioned. That's great to hear. You know, Joe, when I jump off market and I take a look at Upper Township, right? So looking at the primary home market, we actually saw a nice increase there, pretty significant, actually almost 40% jump in the overall value. First half of the year was only about $373,000 in Upper Township. Second half of the year was $520,000. So beautiful jump there for everybody in the primary home market. As for the number of homes that actually came on the market, we had a decrease there, went from 131 down to 94, which ends up being about 28% decrease. Okay. And then the number of properties actually sold was actually dropped as well from 81 down to 59. So at about a 27% clip there. So again, a couple of decreasing numbers there in the overall properties selling and listing. Okay. As for the overall sales value, this was interesting. One of the first times that we've seen this, we actually went from 98% in the first half down to 95% in the second half. So we actually saw a 3% decrease in the second half of the year. Although again, the overall value of the properties was starting, about, again, 40% higher. Yeah. You did see a 3% decrease in the overall value, sale price to list price there. Sure thing. Upper Township. In Summers Point, we actually saw a very slight decrease. We went from 463 down to 454,000 in your average value of the properties there. Number of properties coming on the market actually increased very significantly. Actually jumped up almost 48.5%. Went from 84 properties on the market in the first half to 125 properties coming on the market. So very busy second half of the year for Summers Point. And then the number of properties that sold also increased. Funny how that happens. Increase the inventory, increase the sales. Everyone else, take a note. Summers Point's doing it right. 62 properties in the first half, 79 sales in the second half of the year here in Summers Point. And they even had a slight increase of 1% from 96 to 97.5% here in the sales price to list price in Summers Point.
How about that? And that is the only town, actually, that you did see that increase in the inventory.
That's right.
We did see a couple towns. We did see some towns with an increase in sales and then units, but not with both increase in sales and in units. So let's jump. So North Cape May, for your second half of the year, your average sale price was $548,000, which was about a 21% increase from $433 in the first half of the year. Number of properties that came on the market, not a big difference. We had 48 total properties come on the market. 51 come on the market in the second half of the year as opposed to 64 in the first half of the year. That's about a 20% drop. Sometimes it's a little bit easier when you start looking at the actual units in itself, so it's not that significant as the percentages look like. When you look at the average, the number of properties that closed in the second half of the year, 46 as opposed to 55, so that's 9 unit difference there, which equates to about 16%. Your list price to sale price, you actually had a 98% list price to sale price in the second half of the year, starting at $555,000 with the 548 sale price. And you only had 97% in the first half of the year, and you started at 444. So there was about $100,000 difference there between the first half of 2023 and the second half of 2023 in North Cape May. So just something to keep an eye on as we roll into 2024 here and what that's going to look like. Going into Cape May Courthouse, your average sale price in the second half was $428,000. That was an increase of 11% from $380 the first half of the year. Number of properties that came on the market, pretty close. 121 came on the market second half of the year as opposed to 140 in the first half. And of course, the number of properties that sold, that was one of the few places that we had an increase as well. We had 90 properties close the second half of the year in Cape May Courthouse as opposed to 76 in the first half of this calendar year. Your list price and sale price, both times of the year were relatively the same, 97%, starting right around $440,000 the second half of the year and $392 in the second half of the year. So that kind of wraps up the offshore in the southern half of the county. What are you thinking about all that?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting, man. You start watching this first half versus second half, or vice versa there. And one of the trends I'm seeing in most of the towns in the shore towns that we're covering here, that I was doing the numbers on, was you're almost starting to see a 2-to-1 ratio on the number of properties closing versus what's coming on the market. So that allows for a slight increase in the overall number of properties that are available for sale. Means more choices for buyers, right?
Yeah.
We're still seeing, though, however, the numbers remain pretty steady in the overall values versus sale price, or sale price versus list price, actually. So that means sellers are still, they're still getting their numbers. They're doing very well themselves. So it's almost like there's a win-win situation going on here. We're seeing a little bit more inventory available for buyers, and we're still seeing the sellers getting really good numbers here, and not massive decreases, Joe, in the overall sale prices on one half of the year versus the second half of the year.
Yep, pretty steady.
And obviously we all know the news out there hadn't been great all year about this changing market and this and that and this and that and interest rates and inflation, et cetera. And so it's just good to see that we're having consistency here at the shore, not that Jersey Shore, but at the shore, we're having the consistency in the numbers that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I can tell you, we're going to get into the year stats here, year over year. And what's going to be interesting is sitting here now doing these videos, where are we with inventory?
Yeah.
Is there a true increase? You and I have been watching these numbers. I can tell you right now, I'm not getting into detail, but no.
Yeah.
is the answer.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of work to do here as real estate agents, getting more inventory for on the market here. But we're excited about 2024. That's for sure.
We certainly are. And talking about inventory, when you're looking at that, folks, if you are looking to list and sell here in the upcoming weeks, months, 6 months, a year from now, please feel free to reach out, give us a call, shoot us a text or an email. It would be our pleasure to help you with all of your real estate needs down here. We do offer free market analysis. free equity updates on properties. If you're looking to purchase down here at the Jersey Shore, we can certainly find the right town for you that you're looking for down here for that perfect shore property, beach home, offshore, onshore, and we can make that happen for you. So thank you again for watching. That's Chris, I'm Joe, and we'll see you at the beach.